Hello and welcome. In this video I'm going to show you how to use a cheap Chinese diesel heater to heat your garage or workshop. So here is my simple setup here. You can see the tank mounted to the wall, the unit mounted to the wall, and the wiring and the power source is down here. Before that I'm going to show you what's in the box. I've got a brand new one here and we can run through it. Now it's getting really cold here in the UK. It's really cold here in Bonnie, Scotland, and I know my friend Darren from Free Ranger in Australia, he's got the opposite problem. He's going to be too hot. He'll be looking for an air conditioning unit. Anyhow, let's look at what's in the box. So the first thing we see is the tank. This is a 10 litre tank. This is a typical kit that you would get from Amazon. I'll have a look. I've not worked out how to put links in the description yet, but if I can do it I'll put one in. Anyway, there's the tank. This is the actual unit itself. This is a 5 kilowatt. Now there's 5 kilowatt and there's 8 kilowatt, but to be honest I think they're actually the same. Maybe if you know differently, please put it in the comments. Now, one of them here is the exhaust and the other one is the inlet, and this is the fuel, the inlet for the fuel. So in the accessory box, I'll open it up. Just be careful not to cut any wires. So in the accessory box there's all the fittings that you need to install it. Here you've got Jubilee clips, clamps, the fuel line, the actual wire harness itself, the exhaust pipe, the fuel pump, in this particular kit is a T-piece, and that is to divert the heat in different directions if you so wish. That's a gasket that goes on the unit itself. A silencer. Again, it's an option, it depends on your installation, you might or might not want to use that. I don't know. Oh, I don't know what this is. I can't remember. I need to look back at that. There's a fuel filter there, and screws, cable ties, remote control, which surprisingly works really well. Now this kit is really good. It even comes with a proper sized hole cutter. Another little, that's the air intake baffle, that's for you to bring in, there's a little filter in there, so that's for you to bring in fresh air and filter it as well. The actual control panel itself, this is for the fresh air intake, this one, and these are the two heat hoses which in this particular kit you can put either side, so you can spread them out a bit, spread the heat around. You also have the mounting plate here. Now this is particularly important, especially if you're fitting it to something that's flammable like I have in this garage. So that's your mounting plate, that goes. So we'll have the gasket. First of all, I think the gasket will go over here. Probably take a little bit of messing about just to get that to fit over there. And then the mounting plate itself. So it might look quite complex, but actually it's very easy to install. And I'm going to show you the setup that I have in here. This kit here is going to go in another workshop that I have, or the cabin up the back, so I'm going to mount it differently. This one's going to go in a box outside, so when I do that I'll video it if there's any interest in it. So here's the kit. This is the fuel tank, obviously. That's a fuel filter. The fuel pump. Now the fuel pump has to run at this slight angle. I think it's 15 degrees in an upward direction. Now I've fitted this through here and up the back and into the back of the unit. This is the fuel pipe. In the wiring harness I have fitted in a breaker here, and it's just a safety thing. It's just 20 amps, so if there's any surge in power, that'll break the power. And it's also a good way of isolating the power source when everything's switched off. Now these are 12 volt. It's important that you remember that you can't use these on 110 volt or 230 volt. It has to be 12 volt, and for that purpose what I've used is just an old car battery. Now this old car battery doesn't hold its charge all that well. It does hold its charge, but it's not great. So what I've done is just connected a little 12 volt battery charger to it. You can use a 12 volt power pack of any description. To be honest, that would work. The wiring harness is really simple. It looks complex, but actually all the plugs, they only go in the one direction. They only fit, you know, they're all mated up. So you just, like the controller will only fit in its particular part to the harness. The same with the main unit itself. And then the power and the earth is quite self-explanatory. Now, these are designed to be fitted into vehicles, obviously, but quite a lot of us are fitting them into our workshops and garages just purely for a heat source because they're an economical and effective way to do it. This it runs on either diesel, kerosene, and I have some red diesel in here actually. I wouldn't put anything else other than that in it because you can get problems with the pump or problems with suiting up inside. This has been installed for about 4 years, I think, and I have not had one bit of problem with it, and it works really, really well, which I'll switch it on shortly. But before I do that, I'm going to explain a little bit about the exhaust. Now there's a fresh air intake at the back here and an exhaust. In fact, let's go around and look at it. So this is the outside of the garage here, and this here is the exhaust. And as you can see, I haven't fitted the optional silencer, and the reason for that is nobody really hears it around here, so I just leave it. Now because this is a wooden structure, what I've done is put a metal insert here. So there's a metal insert, and then the exhaust is wrapped in exhaust wrap, you know, heat proof wrapping here. Now I'm not saying that's to spec. You need to judge whatever you do yourself, but for me it's been there 4 years. I've not had one bit of problem. Obviously the garage hasn't burnt down. So I'm quite confident that that's okay. Now this metal, as you can see, is quite thick, and the tape is double wrapped as well. Now here is the fresh air intake, which again I have decided to put that on the outside, and that seems to work really well. So what we'll do is I'll fire this little system up and you can see it working, but before that we'll take a little temperature reading of this surface here, because this is where it's directly blown onto it. There you see 7 degrees, and the tip of the hose, and again much the same. Okay, so to switch this one on, all I have to do is here, so that's a breaker. The control panel will light up, as you can see, and I just literally just press the power button. And it takes a few minutes to start. It begins with the fan, and we get some cool air blowing out, and this is before the pump starts to prime. So in a moment or two we should hear the pump starting to click. And this is one of the slight disadvantages of these, that they do take a few minutes to kick in and to warm up. So they're not quite instant. I suppose that's where the remote control can be quite useful if you're, before you get there. I actually lost the remote control for this one. Well, I'm just going to have a look at them. So the remote control is basically, you've got on, off and up and down, so you can control the temperature, you can turn up a bit or down a bit. I've never found the up or down really all that successful, to be honest. I think I've just let it run at a constant full blast. But there, it is quite handy. As I say, I've lost it for here. So there's the pump starting to go now. And I reckon that's about 2 minutes it's taken to fire up. You can hear the chamber starting to warm, start to fire. Now this little ticking is constant. There is things you can do. You can place it somewhere where you don't need to hear it, or you just put up with it. Once the fan runs, you don't really, it doesn't really bother me, not in this sort of application. You'll hear it speeding up a little bit. So it's still cold air coming out there at the minute. And you'll see the display. The display's quite dim on this actually. Probably just because due to its age. Now it's speeding up. It's still cool air. You can feel it slightly warming up. Yeah, she's warming up now. So a little fan here is sucking away. I've decided just to have the air intake from the garage. You can actually have that as an external source. I think that's what's recommended. However, there's so much room in here, I just leave it that way. When I install the other one in the external box, it will be obviously on the outside, so it'll be quite interesting to see if there's a difference there. Now there's a bit of heat coming through there now. And I think that's about 3 minutes or so to get to this stage. So we'll take a little reading just to see where it's at. And you can see it's up to 23 already, 24 already. It's not quite up to that there, but climbing. So it's been running for about 4 or 5 minutes now. We'll take a little temperature gauge on it here, reading on this part here. 47, 50 degrees I think here. And here on this little unit here, you see a massive difference there. So the thing about it, you know, this is it's a reasonable size space. It's 20 foot by 12, and even in the coldest days with this on, it's bearable. Whereas before this was in, it was just unbearable to work in here. I'm not going to say it makes the place absolutely toasty, it doesn't. But if you get really cold, you just stand next to it and it will heat you up, and then you can get moving again. Now, one of the things I've noticed about this fuel tank here, you have to actually drill it and fit this part in, the fitting in. And I was looking at this new kit. This is a new kit, and it's a different setup. It's this, and I haven't quite figured out. I didn't know what it was when I opened the box. I haven't quite figured it out, but that must fit in the tank somehow. So if anybody's done it, please put it in the comments how you done it. Either that, I'm going to have to just work it out, because the instructions are pants. There's just nothing in the instructions. The instructions are just, I mean, that's it. Attention, really. Rubbish. The other thing is the pump here. On that other pump there's a little arrow like giving it a direction, and this one there's not, but the plug here goes forward. So this is your input here and your output, that's that side. So your input here, output that side. Now I fitted this little gasket over the top just to let you see roughly how this end goes. So you just put this over here, and that would be followed by your plate. So then the plate will go over here. The plate can only go in the one direction, again just to accommodate the fuel pipe here. This side is the inlet and this is the exhaust. So your exhaust goes over here, and there's a Jubilee clip that will hold that in place. And the inlet, the air inlet, will go here. So that's your basic. That's probably the most difficult part, is just fitting your plate to whatever surface you're going through, and then putting your fuel pipe in, fitting up the exhaust and fitting up the air intake. As I say, both of these should be clamped on with the Jubilee clips. So I can feel a difference in here already. It's only been on about 5-10 minutes, but I can feel a big difference. It's warm enough to work in here. It's warm enough to get Bob out of his bed and get him over, because we should be building up this little CT90 engine. Okay, I hope that's useful to you. Let me know in the comments, ask me any questions you have. Happy to answer any that I can. As I say, this little system's been in a while. Somebody was in the other day asking about it, and that's why I decided to make the video. It works great, it makes a big difference, it's economical to run. I don't know what the miles per gallon is. But I only fill it up every now and again, and it's very economical compared with like the paraffin space heaters or the diesel space heaters. They really gobble it up. Obviously you're not getting the same intensity of heat, but it's good enough. If you've got a smallish space, one of these, even two of these fitted in, would make a big difference. So thanks for watching, take care of yourself. If you've enjoyed this video, please help me out by subscribing. It's free, and I'll catch you in the next one. Ride safe, bye.